The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Today is August 3rd, 2020. Oh my goodness, this is episode 227. And this week, this show, this moment, we're talking about fire, water, climate, warfare. And you know me, I'm your best buddy, Basil.
And this is Gonz, coming at you live again on all the channels. Face Like the Sun YouTube channel, Canary Cry Radio YouTube channel, Twitch, which I see 0, but that's impossible.
Impossible.
Yeah, Facebook, Periscope, D Live. Hope everyone had a great weekend and we're back.
Yeah,
with
we really did it, Gonz. We made it through another weekend.
Yes, and just to quickly start off, thank you for all the recommendations for my leg.
Yes.
I think just the
medicine fans are out there.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say. Yeah, I'm gonna say the prayers helped the most because I woke up the next morning and the swelling was just way down, and I didn't have to do any kind of crazy measures. I didn't have to like throw salt on it and what did some other people say? There were a whole bunch of recommendations which I really appreciated.
Yeah, some sort of clay mixture. Somebody had a rundown of how some sort of clay could help.
Yeah,
it was good. I learned a lot.
Let a snake bite it and release more venom or something. I think that person was an Illuminati.
It'll make your spider bite feel better is a snake bite.
Yeah, Illuminati show.
Oh, you got a little scratch? Let me break your arm. That'll help your scratch. Some good old dad medicine there. Okay, cool. Well, let's see here. I don't exactly know how to smoothly get into this, so I will just do it.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I want to give a shout out to listener Jerry. He's been a listener for years and years and years, and haven't interacted a whole bunch with him, but he's constantly on my Facebook. My Facebook algorithms, knows I'm a fan of his, and but there's a contentious relationship because a couple years ago he got a new cat, and he named it Gonz Shapura.
Oh.
Yes, so there's a cat named Gonz Shapura.
Nice.
It's very cute. Yes, he posted in the Canary Cry community on Facebook a picture of Gonz Shapura interrupting his he was sewing some pants. So it was related to the infamous 38 minutes 38-minute dispute. If you're new and you didn't hear that episode, that was about 4 episodes ago, I'd say. So you can catch up there, but there you go. Shout out to Jerry for Gonz Shapura. Now, on the last episode, I mentioned how a listener was, I will say, I don't know if they were upset, but the way that they let me know their grievance made me upset. And that was the way that we pronounce Reuters, the Reuters-Reuters debate, okay? And I feel very strongly that I'm going to pronounce Reuters however I want in the moment. But I will say in my own defense, Gonzo, if you listen back to the history of Canary Cry News Talk, I go back and forth on Reuters and Reuters. There's a long time there, where I was saying Reuters and you were saying Reuters, and I was in the right as always. But for some reason, maybe it was your bad influence. I just have been pronouncing it Reuters recently. And this listener sent an email. I will say they did it the wrong way, calling me unprofessional and it's a very aggressive email. And so I mentioned it on the show last episode, yada, yada, yada. It ended up that this listener and I went back and forth on some emails, letting them know well, they were a little disappointed in their own words that I had responded in the way that I did. I let them know that, we get a lot of criticism, Gonz. This is the internet. Oh, yeah. You can't do what we do and not get criticism. And so I kind of threw it into the bucket of things to ignore, which it's still technically there. Okay. But I will say this is a good learning lesson in how to interact with people, especially, maybe content creators that you have criticism of. Because what subsequently happened is we had a short email back and forth, and I let them know my viewpoint on this, and they let me know some more viewpoints. It was not uncontentious in all, but I will say this. What really changed the situation for me was when they finally decided to actually give me some data, some information on the whole thing, instead of just, what seemed to be subjective criticism the whole time. So I'm going to give you that information now, and I think this needs to be a learning lesson for all of us. Okay. The last email that I received from them included this section here, and I will read it to you. Concerning your current preference of pronunciation, that's me calling it rooters, I can see how you would go from Deuteronomy, which is similar spelling, D-E-U, in comparison to R-E-U, Deuteronomy to rooters. However, Deuteronomy is from the Latin and rooters is from the German. The EU sound is the same as Deutsche Bank, D-E-U, the Deutsche Bank. So, for example, with which I assume you are familiar and I know how to pronounce, talking about Deutsche Bank, this is the problem with English, parenthetical, the devil's own language. It is half Latin and half German and half everything else. Very funny. Yeah. Let's see here. Back in the day, we only listened to the news on the radio in the car. My family did not watch TV at dinner time, which is all to say that there were only 3 news feeds, Reuters, AP, and UPI, so we were able to hear the name pronounced. So, number one, I have never heard any professional, refer to Reuters. I've never listened to Reuters on the radio, any of that. So I've only read it. But this is a very good breakdown of the information. The difference between the Latin spelling and pronunciation to the German spelling and pronunciation. I now understand on an analytical data breakdown of the linguistic things here. So I'm no longer so hostile to the the information because, I'm all about learning new things. I'm all about opening my mind. When the data comes, I'm not going to just take it as truth if somebody sends me a critical email. But if they send me the actual data, the actual information, and try to teach me something, I'm much more open to hearing what she has to say. I'm much less hostile towards it. And I think this is a learning moment for everybody. If you're trying to criticize somebody or change somebody's perspective on something, it is not enough to throw in some ad hominem attacks, things like that. If you just start with the data, you're much more likely to make a change. Now, that being said, am I going to commit to pronouncing it Reuters? No, not necessarily. But now I won't necessarily have to take a stance and call it Reuters just to spite somebody who criticized me. So I will probably pronounce it Reuters sometimes, but if I'm not thinking about it, I'll probably still call it Reuters. But there you go. I don't know. It was a good experience, once we got there.
You can't handle the truth.
And this is a recommendation not just for this particular person who is my elder. They were, I hope they don't mind me mentioning, they're over 55. So I won't give any more information than that. But they are an elder, a learned elder with experiences that I don't have. And I am taking this opportunity to exercise openness to information, actual data that will change my behavior. So there you go. And this is advice for anyone who wants to send us emails or messages or anything criticizing how we pronounce things or really anything. If you have a criticism, I'm probably, I don't know about you, Gonz, I'm probably going to ignore it unless you've got some good data in there. And also don't just send a link to a YouTube video that's an hour long to make your case. Just lay it out. Lay it out.
Yeah. You know, my take is that it's a conspiracy. They put EU in there, the European Union. They want everybody to love the EU.
Yeah, that's probably right.
That's just
especially the Germans, man.
I know. They're behind it.
EU, the modern German Empire.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Right. Good stuff.
Okay. There we go. Reuters. We'll see what happens, but my mind has been softened to the idea.
Excellent. All right. Are we ready to get into the show here now that
let's
do it.
Update? Let's start off. Let's do a little Flippy update.
Flippy update.
Do you want fries with that?
Are you ready to become cyborg?
Right. Flippy update time. Today's Flippy update is a little, it's like a para Flippy update. It's not a Flippy update proper, but for those who don't know, we start out the show with a Flippy update. Flippy is the colloquial name we have for the disembodied robot arms that are taking our jobs, enslaving our children, and flirting with our spouses. We use it as a conversation to talk about how robots are sneaking their way into our lives. But that's not properly what we're talking about today. What we are going to talk about is I found it over on globalnews.ca, and the article is titled Bionic Kitty, Titanium Paws Give Frostbitten Feline New Lease on Life. Yes, and there's a very inspiring picture of a cute kitty with a little bionic paws. And the article reads, when one Russian cat lost its paws, instead of resigning, it fought to keep living. A feline named Dimka, or Mist in Russian, lost her paws to frostbite. An anonymous person found her 2 years ago in the snow in the Siberian city of Novokuznetsk and quickly brought her to a clinic. Local publication Komsomolskaya Pravda reported. Why she was left on the side of the road, no one knows. Quote, there were two likely scenarios. Either she ran away or she fell out of a window. Veterinarian Sergei Gorshkov told the local NGS.ru news website last summer. Unfortunately, frostbite in animals is a very real problem in Siberia. Oh, no kidding. Yeah, Siberia is a dangerous place for stray cats. The cat was taken from the local vet to veterinary clinic Best in Novosibirsk, which had two options, euthanize her or save her. One big-hearted vet went with the latter. Gorshkov made the decision that all four of her paws had to be amputated, along with part of her tail and both of her ears. Per the Moscow Times, instead of leaving her pawless, the clinic decided to go above and beyond and make this kitty's life as close to normal as possible with the help of 3D-printed bionic legs. The collaboration with researchers from Tomsk Polytechnic University, the team created a set of 3D printed prosthetics for the cat. They were installed onto Dimka's body with the help of titanium implants fused to her leg bones, the school said in a statement. The adorable cat got her first set of legs in July 2019, Fox News said, followed by her hind leg implants on December 2019. The clinic shared a video of the cat's journey last year to celebrate the successful procedures. According to the Moscow Times, the cat now lives with the woman who originally found her. So there you go, Gonz. We got bionic cat legs. The cats are ready to become cyborg.
If the theory that cats are aliens are true, then this makes 100% sense.
Aliens?
I know. That's right. This is not just transhumanism, it's transfelinism.
Yeah, and they're going to lead the way in all the transhuman endeavors.
Yes. If the cats do it, why shouldn't we?
Yeah.
But okay, so there you go. Fun story about Cyborg Kitty. I will say there is one quick little Flippy update proper. We actually reported on this robot a couple years ago, but it is up and operational, and we got a nice little video here we can show. This is
shut down the audio here. Go ahead.
Yeah, a tweet from Vala Afshar. Ford's delivery robot can walk on two legs like a human. And you can see the video here. It's this little walking bipedal robot, very nice seafoam green color. It's got the backwards knees, which is terrifying.
It's always creepy.
But it does harken back to my my robot legs thesis with transhumanism, just with the backwards knees. But there you go. This bipedal delivery robot is up and running from Ford, interestingly enough.
So are they going to have driverless cars pull up and then these robots come out of the trunk, which is kind of creepy in itself when it emerges out of the trunk with its legs?
Yeah, it's kind of reminds me of the battle droids from the Star Wars prequel movies.
Yeah.
How they're all folded up in the transport ship, and then they unfold and go to battle.
Right.
It's very, very similar to that. But actually pretty impressive robot compared to some of the other ones that are out there, and especially for deliveries. You know, there's delivery robots in action right now that deliver food and stuff for coronavirus. We've talked about them for a while. But they're on wheels and they roll around, and you still have to, they can't go up steps. They can't, get around in all the different ways. But this robot, he can do backflips. He can climb up to your bedroom window. He can do all sorts of scary things.
Nice. Excellent. I'm
Okay,
looking
there you
forward
go.
to it, so I don't have to
You're
get out of my
updated.
car ever again. Can it pick up food too? That'd be fantastic.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it can. It might smush the cheeseburger, but pretty good.
Yeah, that'll be the day. The Flippy hands off the burgers to this Ford walking robot, and then here, eat human. Shove the food in your mouth. Yeah, that day is coming. All right. Well, let's see. Let's move on. We got a couple. Oh, I got an update here. We got a bunch of updates actually, but this one's kind of it's not really news, but I thought it was interesting, and I included it in the show here.
We interrupt this broadcast to give you a brief update. By the end of this timely interruption, you will be thoroughly updated.
So I've been clicking around the Netflixes there and ran into the show called Travelers. Have you seen Travelers, Basil?
I don't think so.
You haven't? Okay, so
is it a show or a movie?
it's a show. It's got 3 seasons.
I've not seen the show.
Been through a couple seasons now. And, we talk about predictive programming as kind of this process where they show what's going to happen before it happens. And I think a lot of people talked about some of the clips or some of these episodes in the past, especially early on in March when the whole pandemic thing started to take place. But I didn't know that this was part of the show, and I ran into it. So basically, the theme of the show here, it's something you would enjoy, Basil, and it might be actually giving away your cover. The story is about these future time travelers that take over the bodies of people that are about to die in the modern time, in the 21st is how they call it. And they're on missions. Okay, so they have these numbers and stuff like that. And they often reference this director, which turns out to be a quantum AI computer. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But I have a few clips here that I wanted to play. This one from episode number 5, season 2. It's called Jenny. And here's the clip from that show.
What was in the package? An antiviral. Historically, this is the beginning of a minor flu outbreak that killed 70,000 people worldwide.
That does not sound minor to me.
Percentage-wise, we're not wired to think of billions of people.
Over a few months, an antigenic shift allows the virus to mutate, infecting more of the population. Eventually, the CDC and the WHO get it under control.
Must be why they provided a broad-spectrum antiviral. This will inhibit the development of each of its mutations.
Our mission is to save 3 of the people who historically don't make it.
So there you go. Eventually, at least the historical record says that the CDC and WHO get it under control, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yes.
And then here's
trust the authorities.
Trust
kids.
the authorities. And then this is another clip from the same episode here and how dire this virus was.
How's it looking? We're all infected, aren't we?
Not all. You, Philip, and Carly have it. You and I somehow rejected the virus.
What?
Each of your blood samples has a viral load between 500 and 1,000 copies per milliliter. Ours is 0.
What about antibodies?
Trace amounts. Somehow we're immune.
How is that possible?
It's hard to say without running more tests.
So if we're immune, can't you create a blood serum?
We'll try. We might be running out of time. This started with the mission. You can't be the only ones.
Check the deep web for any other teams reporting the same symptoms.
If it's transmitted through air particles and foamates, that means there's a good chance you've infected everyone you've come into contact with.
Are you sure?
Outside of an immunity, we're predicting an infection rate of over 40%.
40?
Call everyone you've come into contact with. Tell them to stay inside.
Stay inside. And you talked over the part where she mentions how the virus spreads through the air. So that's another thing. Yeah, the deep web. That's how the travelers communicate, is through the deep web. And classic. And then
the deep web.
This I thought was very interesting as well, because on the next episode, season 2, episode 6, it's titled U235. This is like, okay. So what happened this year? We had the virus, the pandemic, shut down everything, masks, the whole deal. You know, the whole talk about hospitals getting overfilled and blah, blah, blah. And then we had the riots afterwards, right? We had looting and all this stuff. Well, if this isn't predictive programming, I don't know what is. This is a character named David. He's a social worker. He's at this shelter helping people. You know, they're sick. He's trying to feed them, all this kind of stuff. And his boss is trying to tell him to go home.
David. You should go home.
Yeah, I'm just gonna sit for a bit.
You've done your fair share. Government's getting serious. There's looting going on.
Looting? Saw a movie a few months back where something like this happened. It was very believable. But I never bought the looting.
Hey, everyone's getting sick, so let's break that window and steal that TV. I don't get that.
Me neither.
I mean, you can get a pretty decent TV for next to nothing nowadays compared to what I got mine for. God.
David.
The expensive part is the cable.
David. Go home.
David, go home.
Go home.
Go home. I hope the audio's coming through clear.
Coming through for me.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
It'll be at least clear on the RSS feed podcast version.
On the topic, real quick, on the topic referring to the clip you just played, and they were talking about movies and what happened in the movies.
Right.
I the other day watched V for Vendetta again.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, V for Vendetta was really, I hadn't considered this before, but it was after Robot Jocks, of course, my all-time favorite being Robot Jocks. After that, when I was in high school, V for Vendetta came out. I was obsessed with V for Vendetta and watched it many, many, many times. One of the only DVDs I actually owned. And I was surprised because watching it again, I still had big parts of it memorized. And yes, if you have seen the memes, it is a movie that takes place in 2020 where a virus has hit and there's looting and all this sort of stuff. And the government used it to take sort of a fascist government, took the opportunity, took control, and then it's sort of the back end of that story. Basically, the second half of 2020 we're going to see. And in that movie, the virus hit on an election year as well, and that's how the new fascist government was able to take over. Riots, looting, all that kind of stuff is eerily similar to our current situation.
Oh yeah.
And then of course, V for Vendetta, the famous Guy Fawkes mask, made its appearance, and I was just thinking, I knew in real life it's going to be big googly eyes instead of the Guy Fawkes mask.
It's going to be.
I'm not going to give anything away, but if you remember, Gonz, have you seen it?
I've seen parts of it. I haven't seen the whole thing, which I try to limit my viewing of that kind of stuff and media because I can't turn off the part of my brain that analyzes everything from this perspective.
Sure.
So I try not to just watch everything. I know a lot of people do, but I'll take a look.
But the one of the parts is the whole city of London. They all receive a Guy Fawkes mask, and they all put it on. And there's thousands of people marching in the streets with their Guy Fawkes mask. And yes, I did imagine everybody marching in the streets with giant googly eyes.
Yeah,
a symbol. Ideas. You cannot kill ideas with bullets.
Oh, here we go.
Googly eyes will take down the government.
Okay, one more clip from the show, Travelers. This one's on episode 12. So the thing that's really interesting, and I'm giving away some parts of the plot, but who cares, right? This is, I think this season was from 2017. So, spoiler alert for anyone who cares. The first Traveler, 001, the first Traveler that came back in time from the future. So one of the plot things is that they couldn't just go back in time whenever. They had to come back during the time of computers. And because of the quantum AI thing, and they can't go backwards in time. They can only go forward from that point which the first guy came, 001, and 001 showed up in the tower, 9/11 towers, Twin Towers, and his whole mission was to die, and just send back a message to say that he made it, to not be suspicious that there's time travelers, right? Good plot. So this is the character 001 talking about this device, because he becomes basically against the device, which they call the director. And he has a little rant here. See if you can catch a couple of the sort of the twists. He talks about God here. And anytime God is mentioned in a show, there's always like a little twist of what's true, So let's see if you can catch this.
For 2,000 years, mankind believed that God was created in His image, guiding our lives, hearing our prayers. When those prayers weren't answered, just chalked it up to His divine will. But then mankind created the power to build God, a machine more powerful than any human mind could ever be. The fate of our existence just handed to an AI with the ability to monitor each and every shifting timeline, while we blindly obey its orders with the belief that salvation will come. The problem isn't the fact that we believed in God.
That we didn't believe in ourselves. Fine, I'll get it.
It's time to pull back the curtain and take control of the present, to fight for our future.
So there you go.
You are getting some messages about it's a little echoey. It looks like in the YouTube feed.
Not much I can do about it.
Yeah, so if you want a much cleaner version of the audio, make sure to subscribe to Canary Cry News Talk on your podcast catcher. The audio is significantly better in many ways. And, you get episodes delivered right to your phone. So make sure to subscribe to Canary Cry News Talk.
Right. So
I heard a couple things in there that were.
Yeah, what'd you catch?
One of them, and maybe I heard it incorrectly, but maybe you have it, in your notes here. But it said something about how we created God in our image.
Yep, that was the first one. That
was weird.
Yeah, isn't that weird that he would say that, for 2,000 years, man believed God was created in His image. Huh?
Yeah.
No,
wait,
that's
not.
No.
That's opposite.
It's like the 100% opposite. And notice that the guy who wants to take down the quantum AI, bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Bad guy.
Oh, of course.
Bad guy who believes in humanity, that whole deal.
Yes.
So it's just interesting how they portray religion in these shows. It's always, and there's another scene where these guys are, these old people are getting ready for the rapture, and they're all about to drink the Kool-Aid, to commit suicide together. And, they all get, the time travelers all take over their bodies, and you got grandma with the sniper rifle. It's pretty funny. But anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in there because, this is a Netflix original show. And here you have pandemic propaganda. You have these lines that are clearly predictive programming type of stuff. And even the AI quantum computer God that the main characters basically live their lives by. And you gotta believe the director will save us. So just that I throw that in there as a quick update. I know it's not that quick, but something to keep an eye on as we blend fiction with reality. Science fiction was a documentary, and there's more proof right there.
There you go. Okay, great. I'll have to check that show out. Where does that stream?
Netflix.
You know, it's I've heard, I haven't seen the actual words on this, but I think I mentioned it before. I think technically, since we're on Twitch, we're allowed to play Amazon Prime shows on Twitch
we are.
Without copyright worries.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
We should do that.
All right. Moving on. What's the next update?
We have a quick Fauci update. Let's see. Where's my little Fauci thing here? Here it is.
Science is truth.
Yeah, apparently. This is CBSNews.com. Dr. Fauci and Colin Kaepernick to receive award for commitment to social change.
Wow.
Yeah, so the man who told us to socially distance is now getting an award for commitment to social change.
For telling people not to hang out with each other.
I don't understand. Obviously, the irony is missed by a lot of people here, but I'm not going to even read this article. It's not even worth giving him the time of day. Yeah. But there you go, Dr. Fauci winning awards now. It shows the whole thing is just nonsense here.
He needs them.
Yep. And also another update here. Did you hear about the anti-pedo, not the protests or the? Oh, hold on. Where's my volume?
I did see videos. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that in LA or something?
Yeah.
There was some trafficking protests going on.
There's like a cancel Hollywood. There's a Bill Gates is evil banner. People holding up stop child pornography. This was basically like the conservative right-wing QAnon type of crowd coming out with signs, and I think they were protesting in front of the CNN building. No violence as far as I can tell, but very interesting. We've been talking about this counter movement. Yeah. And it's hit the streets now. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. You know, I think some people misunderstood what we were talking about in the last episode of what this is all about. But I just think it's fascinating to see people on the streets now, you know, to end human trafficking and making it a whole movement and raising awareness. Obviously, it's not as big as like BLM. It's not as well funded, I would say. But is there something? Uh-oh, did you freeze up? I think Basil froze up. Are you there? Hello? Yeah, he froze up. Okay. And now I got to remember to edit that because in a couple episodes ago, we were both talking over each other because his recorder is going to record him talking and my recorder's not. So let me close this to see if I can get Basil back online here. Close a couple of these tabs. You there, Basil? No Basil. Okay. All right. Well, let's see. What's another update here? Oh, here we go. We have a 33 update. This one was crazy. This is dailymail.co.uk. Exclusive. Man who shot dead BLM protester in Austin is revealed as a 33-year-old active duty Army sergeant and Trump supporter who posted about using deadly force against the mobs before the killings. Okay, I'm getting a call from Basil here. That's weird. Uh-oh. Hold on. Totally lost Skype here. Oh. Hello.
Oh, we're back.
You're back.
Back. Oh, man. They really got me that time.
Yeah, they really kicked you off that time.
That was a big one.
Yeah. I was just moving on here. Seeing if I can do it without the show, but...
Yeah, no worries. What was I saying? Oh, I wanted to give props to Creepy Uncle Joe in the Twitch chat. That he's doing a good job of role-playing in the chat.
Oh, okay.
I forget the exact thing I wanted to mention.
You wanna give me back your video, or are you just scared?
Yeah, I guess no. You should have some video. Let's give you that. Dang! Wow, that was a big disruption.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, let's move on.
Okay, so I was reading this headline here from dailymail.co.uk. Man who shot dead BLM protester in Austin is revealed as a 33-year-old active duty Army sergeant and Trump supporter who posted about using deadly force against the mobs before the killing. We don't need to read about it because
there's so many things wrong with that.
Oh yeah, it's just all over the place.
Just to remind everybody, this shooting that happened in Austin, this guy, this Army, I'm sorry, did he say he was an Army sergeant?
Army sergeant. Yeah.
Yeah. So this Army sergeant was in his car, just driving, and was blocked and surrounded by Black Lives Matter protesters. And then a Black Lives Matter protester carrying an AK-47 walked up to the car and pointed it at this guy. And then this Army sergeant drew his concealed carry and shot the guy down. But of course, that's not what you hear in that headline. You hear this hateful Army patriot just loves killing protesters.
Yeah, but the strange thing is the guy was 33 years old.
Yeah, that is also strange. So
that makes it seem like maybe this was
your messaging.
The messaging, yeah. This guy was part of the plot, to stir things up.
Classic.
And classic. All right, one more quick update, and then we'll get into some of the stories here. And this kind of leads us into the first story, but this one here.
Burn it all.
This is ABC7.com. Apple fire scorches 26,450 acres in Riverside County. Arson suspected, officials say. And this is by an area that I used to visit quite a bit. The apple farms and stuff that are up in the mountains down here. And it says here, firefighters on Monday were continuing to battle a massive apple fire, which CAL FIRE said had burned 26,450 acres in the Cherry Valley area of Riverside County and was only 5% contained. Officials said that at least 2 outbuildings were also destroyed by the blaze, which began shortly after 5 p.m. Friday near Oak Glen Road and Apple Tree Lane. No injuries have been reported in the region's first major wildfire of the season. And Oak Glen is the little apple farm that I used to visit all the time, and where the wife grew up around that area. So been there a lot. So it'd be bad. I would be upset if that place burned down, but they have a really cool trail up there, and just some of the footage of the fire is just like, man, it's crazy. What kind of laser beams are they shooting from space to burn all that up?
It's your directed energy weapons there. Yeah.
Pretty insane. Which leads us into the other story about things burning, and this one from Portland.
Burn it all.
Uh-oh.
You want to take this one?
Yeah, give me a second to go over here. Here we go. We're coming from the WashingtonExaminer.com. The headline is titled, "This is Who They Are. Portland protesters filmed burning Bibles and American flag amid violence in city." Portland protesters were filmed burning Bibles and the American flag as protests continue in the city for more than 2 months. Republican Texas Senator Ted Cruz responded to a Friday video of people burning what was described as a stack of Bibles on Twitter Saturday, saying, "This is who they are." The president's son, Donald Trump Jr., also reacted to the footage, appearing to lay blame on the far-left Antifa movement. Quote, "Now we move to the book-burning phase," he wrote on Twitter. "I'm pretty sure Antifa doesn't actually stand for what they say it stands for. Maybe just remove the anti part of them name, and it's perfect." Leaving just fa for fascism. Conservative commentator Charlie Kirk said of the video on Sunday, "Our faith is under attack. Protesters have targeted federal property, most notably the federal courthouse in recent weeks, as violence continues, sparked by the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis on Memorial Day. Quote, "These aren't late-night demonstrations," Oregon U.S. Attorney Bill Williams told reporters in July outside the federal courthouse. Quote, "This is criminal activity. There's a difference. What you have failed and the media have failed to distinguish between. You seem unwilling to call people engaged in criminal conduct as criminals as opposed to lawful protesting. The quote continues, "I'm just saying there needs to be a distinction made between lawful, constitutionally protected protests and this. This is unlawful, and people, whether you're an opportunist, an antagonist, an agitator, or an anarchist, call it for what it is," he added. An agent with the Department of Homeland Security anonymously described the scenes as totally surreal. The quote continues, "A totally surreal experience. You get large, nonviolent demonstrations where people march, they chant, they give speeches, then shortly after are replaced with a smaller crowd, though still large, who immediately start trying to break into and destroy the federal courthouse. They have transposed their hatred for the president and for law enforcement onto the physical structure of the federal courthouse and the uniformed personnel whose job is to protect that courthouse," the agent told the Center for Immigration Studies. Quoting continues, "They throw homemade Molotov cocktails, try to set the walls on fire, try to cut," well, I'll say all Molotov cocktails are homemade. I don't think you can buy manufactured ones. "Try to set the walls on fire, try to cut and pry through the plywood covering the glass walls, and all while screaming vitriol until their voices are cracked and hoarse. When DHS personnel are visible, they throw frozen water bottles at them, canned goods, paint, and gasoline. They try to shine high-powered lasers into our eyes, which can cause permanent damage. They chant and spray paint 'Feds go home' as one of their slogans, and that could be easily achieved. If they could prove they wouldn't destroy the courthouse, DHS personnel would go home. It's that simple," the agent added. President Trump has moved federal law enforcement officers to cities seeing repeated riots and violence and has been vocal in his condemnation of local leaders not controlling the situation. Quote, "A lot of people in jail, these are anarchists, these are protesters, these are people that hate our country, and we're not going to let it go forward," Trump said in July of the Portland riots. "The governor and the mayor and the senators out there, they are afraid of these people. That's the reason they don't want us to help them. They're afraid. I really believe they're actually, maybe even physically afraid of these people because what they're doing is incredible." And that's the end of the article there. You know, just to pop it in here, I don't think I meant to put this article in a past show. I don't think we ever got to it, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. There were reports, as we know, the federal or the mysterious officers or agents, swooping up protesters and putting them in unmarked vans, et cetera, et cetera. We've gone through that. There were reports that these people were getting let out of jail, but they had to swear that they would no longer go to protests.
Right. Yeah, I remember you had that story.
Did we actually go through the story?
I don't think we did.
I don't think we did either. So I'll just summarize it being, a lot of these protesters getting swooped up when they're let out of jail on bail or even, it was unconstitutional. They were being swooped up and held with no due process. They were never no charges were ever brought. They were just held for hours and then released. But in order to be released, they had to swear or promise or sign a thing that said they would not go to any more protests. And there's a lot of conversation about how not only is picking these people up on unconstitutional, no due process, no charges being brought to them being unconstitutional, but then also, making them swear to never go to a protest again also had its First Amendment unconstitutionality attached to it. But you can compare this, and it's a little bit of a difficult thing to parse because when you commit a crime, and for instance, if you get a felony, you do lose many of your rights, your constitutional rights. You can't own a firearm, you can't vote. So taking away the constitutional rights of criminals there's precedent of that. Whether it's right or wrong in the long term, that's still being decided, I suppose. But the problem was these people weren't being charged with anything, and they were not being put through the legal process in a constitutional way. And so forcing them to give up rights without, being categorized as an actual criminal or felon is there's a little bit of an issue with that. And at this point, there's a lot of division. It's really easy for people who are not happy with the violence and the protesting and stuff like that to just say, well, that's what they get. They get what's coming to them. But that's a very dangerous division to just take for granted. Because that's the problem is it starts these constitutional rights being taken away. They start with people who, we won't fight for. There's a certain half the country will not bat an eye or argue about these people, being unconstitutionally detained, not charged with a crime, given no due process, and then taken away their constitutional rights. Outside of the normal legal system. And, it's easy to say, well, they shouldn't have been out there and they're protesters and they're burning stuff and they deserve it. The problem is, depending on what happens in the future, this will set precedent for them to take away the rights of anybody who they want to. There's a very real possibility that the power structure will change hands this November. I know that's contested, but as time goes on, I'm less and less confident that Trump has this one in the bag. But if power changes and suddenly it's a Democratic, it's run by the Democratic Party and they start swooping up conservatives. I'm just saying in hypothetical here. I'm not saying this will happen, but hypothetically, if they start treating conservatives in the same way that they're treating, these people at these protests, there's going to be some big problems. And I think conservatives are going to wish that they had taken a stand, for the constitutional rights of every American, instead of celebrating, these protesters and looters and rioters outside of constitutionally mandated ways. So anyways, there's my rant for the day, I guess.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. And it does feel like a setup, short term, long term, it doesn't matter, because people don't think about how, if the pattern stands, then we have another 4 years of Trump, but then likely, there's an old adage about presidents are selected, not elected. Likely we're going to go swing the other direction after that, even if Trump is here for another 4 years. And the way things are going, how openly socialist the Democratic Party is, it's going to be bad in 2024 once the Democrats get back in power, so to speak, of the presidency, whoever it is, doesn't matter. It's going to be a very interesting decade, I would say, for the United States. And either way, it doesn't really matter whether it happens this year or 2024. But yeah, I think you're right. And I think I'm looking at this Charlie Kirk. I've had this Charlie Kirk tweet up on the post here where it says BLM Inc. arsonists just burned a stack of Bibles in Portland. The activist media won't report on this because it's likely they support it. Our faith is under attack. If you vote for Biden, you vote for Bible burnings. And and again, that precedent being set, even if Biden doesn't win, it's going to be the same precedent that your faith is under attack, which it is. I'm not saying it's not. But I think that is setting up, we've talked about this, setting up the conservative right wing to have a violent uprising. And yeah, we support the Second Amendment and all these things. But yeah, at what point are the things that we didn't, not protecting the basic, constitutional rights that, when will that come back to haunt us? And that's, I think, the main point you were making here.
Yeah. And to put it simply, thank you for clarifying. To put it simply, there's a real danger, the divide, and it all goes back to who are you letting pull your puppet strings?
Right.
You got to be really careful about being led to feel a certain way without critically thinking about it.
Yeah.
If you're in my opinion, if you're a true Constitution-loving patriot, we need to be fighting for the constitutional rights of even these people we disagree with.
Right.
Right. Because you should know, with the history of tyranny And the way that authoritarian governments develop, it's by dividing, getting their people to agree to treat one group of people a certain way, and then that desensitizes the population to letting more people be treated that way. And if we don't, stand up for the constitutional rights of people we don't agree with, it's going to bite us in the butt later on down the road. And we're going to be sad about it.
It's the same reason why, if a Satanist wants to preach somewhere, it's like, go ahead, go ahead and do it. I will protect your right to do it, even though you can 100% disagree with the content. But that gets, but again, a lot of those things get into some difficult areas when it comes to various topics.
Yeah, and with the spiritual worldview, you can fight things on a spiritual level, while still protecting the political rights of individuals.
Yeah.
So yes, when it comes, that's a very interesting example you bring up there. Satanists out on the street doing Satanist stuff.
As long as they're not harming anybody.
Yes, let's assume that there's no laws being broken.
Yeah. No melting babies.
Protecting their right to do that, because by extension, you're protecting your own right to do that. And that battle, I don't believe, should be fought politically. That should be fought spiritually.
Right. Amen. All right. So that's something to keep in mind here. We've been trying to keep an eye on the Portland thing. I know this is a very right-leaning article, but I thought it was important to at least mention, because yes, Bibles were being burned, and no matter what your worldview is, whether you believe in the Bible or not, anytime book burning starts, you got yourself a situation.
Problematic.
Yeah, historically problematic. So just keeping tabs on that. And let's move on, because we talked about the fire here, but I feel like there's a different kind of warfare taking place here. And some of these things, we know conceptually about weather modification, geoengineering, and weather warfare. But as I was putting together today's show and looking at some of the stories, the theme sort of crept up on its own. It's not something we planned. And with a lot of these shows, by the way, for those of you listening, we don't come into it with like, okay, we're going to talk about this today. We let the news sort of determine the theme and a couple of the main stories. And it's not based on the story themselves per se, but it's usually we give our own commentary and our own crazy spin on things. But this first one here has to do with Isaias.
It will kill.
All right, so this is usatoday.com. Hurricane warning issued for Carolinas as strengthening Isaias takes aim on East Coast. And I've been seeing a lot of this stuff recently. Have you been seeing a lot of the warnings?
I've here and there. Yeah.
Here and there, yeah. While Florida may have been spared the worst of tropical storm Isaias, that won't be the case for the mid-Atlantic and northeastern U.S. Isaias is forecast to make landfall as a hurricane in the Carolinas on Monday night and will bring dangerous storm surge and flash flooding to most of the eastern seaboard over the next few days, the National Weather Service said. The National Hurricane Center issued a hurricane warning from South Santee River, South Carolina, to Surf City, North Carolina, meaning winds of at least 74 miles per hour are expected there. Quote, "We are forecasting it to become a hurricane before it reaches the coast this evening," senior hurricane specialist Daniel Brown said. Sounds like a movie character. I'm Daniel Brown. It's going to be bad. It's forecast to produce a dangerous storm surge of 3 to 5 feet in portion of North and South Carolina. Calling the surge life-threatening, the Hurricane Center warned that, quote, "the combination of a dangerous storm surge and the tide will cause normally dry areas near the coast to be flooded by rising waters moving inland from the shoreline," end quote. Isaias, pronounced Isaias, I guess I was saying it wrong. Isaias. Okay. Could bring heavy rains to up to 8 inches in spots as it moves up the coast, Brown said. And, quote, "all those rains could produce flash flooding across portions of eastern Carolinas and mid-Atlantic, and even in the northeast U.S. As of 11 a.m. Monday, the center for Isaias was located about 220 miles southwest or southwest of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and moving to the north at 13 miles per hour, the Hurricane Center said. The storm's winds clocked in at 70 miles per hour, which is just 4 miles per hour below hurricane level. Flood watches were posted all the way from the Carolinas to New England. In all, some 53 million people were where flood watches are in effect. These watches include the Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, and New York City metro areas. Hurricane Center Ken Graham said 90% of fatalities from tropical storm systems are from water. Quote, so that's a dangerous situation. Too much precipitation, Graham said. Quote, if you're out and about, don't drive your car where waters cover the road. And it's got a little bit more here. Tornado warnings for Tuesday in the Virginia Northeast Islands. So just the point here is there's a lot of storm watch, a lot of effects of the, I guess, just the season, right? Hurricane season, right?
Allegedly.
Right? Elbow nudge, Basil. And the point here, what I'm trying to make is that it seems like, given the fact that China and the U.S. have been kind of at odds, to say the least, this type of weather warfare could be in play as we speak here. And we know about China. We reported on China and their flooding. And as part of the next story here, to kind of compare and contrast what's going on with the storm here. So let's move on to the next one.
Okay. Welcome to Chinese News!
It will kill. This is on foxnews.com here. Vulnerable eastern China areas evacuated ahead of Typhoon Hagupit. This is quite the name. Beijing. Vulnerable coastal areas were being evacuated and fishing boats recalled to port before a typhoon was expected to bring heavy rains to eastern China late Monday, as much of the country is still recovering from unusually heavy summer flooding. Typhoon Hagupit had gusts of up to 56 miles per hour at its center and was moving northwest at 16 miles per hour. China's National Meteorological Center said Hagupit is expected to come ashore between Zhejiang and Fujian provinces. Shanghai is expected to feel the effects. Ferry services and some trains have been suspended, and 4,481 passengers were taken off boats in waters off of Zhejiang coastal cities of Wenzhou and Tanzhou. In Fujian, coastal fisheries were evacuated, tourist spots were closed, and construction sites ordered to suspend operations. Fishing boats were ordered to avoid seas expected to be impacted by the typhoon. This year's typhoon season has been relatively mild in China, although flooding since June along its major river systems has caused scores of deaths, forced around 2 million people to be evacuated, and caused more than 49 billion yuan, $7 billion, in damage. So China's feeling it too here.
That's what I'm saying, man. It's kind of weird that we've had all this stuff in China, and then all of a sudden we got, we have the one coming up approaching the east coast of the U.S., and then China getting ready for another one. I don't know, man. Just a little bit of, and the thing is,
we're working our way up to a thesis,
right? And obviously, the whole climate debate, the climate change, that's been part of a big political issue. And
remember in the before times when climate change was like the big conversation? Like that was the biggest thing we had to worry about.
And it's really interesting because right as these storms are hitting China, it's hitting the east coast of the U.S., I started to see over the weekend a lot of climate change articles. Again, they kind of come in waves, There's like a news cycle. But this one that I found, again, seems to be pushing for that same concept. And this story is from Yahoo. This is finance.yahoo.com. And it's titled, "It's time for American leaders to wake up to the threat of climate change for the good of the planet and business."
Well, And business.
And business. The coronavirus pandemic has worn out its welcome on Earth. Just try and find someone who's not sick and tired of working from the basement, wearing a mask, bumping elbows and greeting, or simply living with the worry of themselves or their family getting sick. And these inconveniences pale in comparison to the pain many have suffered from sickness or the loss of loved ones. If we could have seen the pandemic coming and had the power to prevent it, of course, we would have. If we had the power but sat on our hands as millions became sick and died, that inaction would be unforgivable. There is another problem that we know is coming, that we have the power to address, and yet, which we continually do too little or often nothing to tackle. I'm talking about climate change.
Dun, dun, dun.
Left unchecked, the impact of climate change will only further alter our world as we know it, reshaping our coastlines and the cities that sit on them. Geez, this guy's like super apocalyptic. Accelerating species extinction, devastating agriculture and causing famine, ravaging our economy and impacting everyone's health. Though often regarded as a hot potato in politics, one of the biggest points of opposition to addressing climate change is the cost. How can a world whose transportation and energy systems are so heavily rooted in burning hydrocarbons afford to scrap them and shift to other cleaner forms of energy? I approach it from the other direction, however. How can we afford not to? Yes, the looming cost to human life in the natural world are paramount and merit immediate and sustained commitment to long-term action. For those who also worry about the economics of tackling climate change, consider this. Goldman Sachs recently estimated that there is $16 trillion to be made in just the next 10 years from new investments in renewable energy.
Ooh.
That's a lot of money. Put your money in renewable energies, I guess. Furthermore, if the United States committed to help keep global warming within 2 degrees Celsius, this would create between $1 trillion and $2 trillion in yearly investments in renewable energy. At a time when the global pandemic has dealt a mighty blow to the world's economy, those kinds of numbers should be music to our ears. Why would we not embrace the enormous economic benefits and job creation of investing in next-generation transportation and renewable energy systems? As a Republican governor of the 7th largest state and a top 25 global economy, I was proud to champion energy and environmental policies that helped Ohio reduce its carbon emission by almost 30% between 2015 and 2014, or 2005 and 2014, all while achieving strong job creation and still managing major new investments in natural gas from shale with regulations that surpassed the federal government's. Our approach was balanced, reasonable, and productive with a focus on encouraging energy investments while also protecting public health and the environment and preserving the Ohio's renewable energy standard. Thanks to the state's support for renewable energy, thousands of new jobs were created by companies like Amazon and Facebook, which, like many tech companies, are committed to renewable energy use. Are they? Are they really? I don't know.
Hey, if there's that much money to be made.
I see Tesla may be involved in some of this stuff, but I haven't heard much from Facebook and Amazon. Anyway, the time has come for people who understand the need to be good stewards of our environment and who can appreciate the value of a global economic boost to roll up their sleeves and push for the switch to renewable energy and clean transportation. Traditional renewable energy sources like solar and wind have stood the test of time and merit greater investment and deployment. Clean natural gas can be the bridge as we ramp up more renewables and make the final break from carbon-intensive fuels. We also need to support research into new green energy technologies and bring these to market. This is my favorite part. I joined former Secretary of State John Kerry, who's a Skull and Bones, and former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger behind an effort called World War Zero to help bring together a group of unlikely allies, Democrats, Republicans, and independents, scientists, military leaders, business leaders, diplomats, entertainers, and ordinary people from all walks of life to mobilize, speak up, and tackle climate change together, and to find new ways to and find new ways of helping people appreciate the need to address the problem. Seeing the economic benefits of renewable energy investments at a time of a global recession might not be an angle that first comes to mind, but tough problems merit different approaches and demand that we take advantage of the opportunities when they arise, like now. Just like America's shift to a wartime footing in the 1940s helped end the Great Depression, The manufacturing revolution and global job creation that would be ushered in by the transition to a clean energy economy could deal critical blows to the two dragons at once, climate change and economic downturn. Let your voice be heard and make clear to those who lead that we cannot waste this opportunity. So there you go. It's funny because this is such a Hegelian dialectic. You know, this is so much of the problem, reaction, solution. And while there's probably, we know about weather manipulation technologies and geoengineering technologies, not even secret. You know, there's like all these projects from the 40s and 70s and 50s, cloud seeding. There's all kinds of stuff that people have done to affect our weather. And it's been used. Not to mention HARP. Not to mention HARP and all that stuff. And so that's all there and researchable, and you can look it up. But you know, we have to politicize it and make it about this new energy thing, and we need to tackle climate change, and we're going to do it with renewable energies, and it's just so controlled when all this stuff is readily available. You know, well in the past.
You know, one aspect of this that I haven't heard too many people hear about, I haven't heard too many people hear about it or talk about it, which is, you know, I see the climate change thing in this article as a good example of this, as a primarily economic issue. Yeah. And just to break it down very simply, it gets much more complicated than this. But here's the thing: the current form of capitalism, the capitalism as a ideology to run an economy, it requires constant growth. Yeah. If it does not grow, it dies, and it needs to grow in many different ways. It needs to grow in population. It needs to grow in influence. Obviously, it needs to grow in capital, meaning money. It needs to grow across the board. If you have in the church of capitalism, if there's not growth, you're failing. You can't just chill at one level.
There's no sustenance. It's always growth or die.
Where I think the climate change thing comes in is, and why, you know, Yahoo Finance is talking about it, and why it says, you know, the headline includes, you know, blah, 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 threat of climate change for the good of the planet and business, is because we're at a point in our history where traditional energy sources, traditional infrastructure, traditional, you know, all the stuff we've been living off of for 100 years or more, it's no longer not sustainable, but the growth is down. And this is exemplified in the fact that, you know, the oil companies used to be the most valuable companies in the world. ExxonMobil and, you know, Shell, all these types of companies, they were the pinnacle of capitalist achievement. And just going simply by, you know, numbers, just earnings, the value of the company, publicly traded, stock prices, all these things. Oil companies used to be the top. Companies are no longer the most powerful companies. They're no longer the most valuable. They're no longer the most influential companies. And the old guard, if you will, of energy is the growth has stopped. There is no more, you know, there's a ceiling on the growth of that economic structure of, you know, oil-based businesses. And simply from an economic perspective, you must grow year over year. If you don't grow, you fail. And the traditional energy companies have hit a ceiling. They are not growing in the way that they should. And so, you know, there's a part of the climate change issue that is strictly economic, because it's an industry that has, you know, a lot of room for exponential growth, and therefore, you know, economic motivation to make a switch over to clean stuff. Whether or not, you know, the climate change debate or the climate change science or whatever, whether or not climate change is real in the traditional sense, It is the most effective next step for capitalism to take in order to have some more room to grow, which is why you get, the numbers are so huge. What was it? $13 trillion or something?
16 trillion, yeah.
16 over the next whatever decade or something.
Right.
I mean, that's an enormous market. And that's just where the world has to go if the capitalist structure is going to continue on in the future. So I kind of been starting to look at the situation totally apart from the climate change alarmism, the activism, the whatever you want to call it, the moral stance of climate change to the to the leadership of the planet and to the elite structures. The moral aspect is significantly less important than the fact that it's the answer to an ailing energy industry that you need. You can't let it ail. You must have it grow, or else capitalism will fail. So, the climate change thing has been transmogrified into a moral issue for, individual citizens of the world. But above all of that, it's an economic issue that must, they must go in this direction, or else the scaffolding of the traditional capitalist energy industries will fall, and it will just be a disaster for capitalism as an ideology. So that's why I think, and I know this is a little bit of a turn from the usual conversations of climate change and things like that. But when you start thinking about it in economic terms, it makes much more sense because, there's all this back and forth about the science and the morality and, does it really matter? Is it real? Is it not real? None of that matters. None of the science matters. None of the legitimacy of facts matters. Nothing matters when the growth of the capitalist industry of energy requires growth into that market. There is nothing you can do to stop it.
Yeah, and the greatest example back in I think it was March or maybe April, the oil price, the futures contract for oil went negative, like negative $37 or something. Yeah. And that was because the world economy had stopped and their futures contracts. So the oil producers produce the barrels of oil and they have to give them away. They got to make room for more, but nobody was buying it because nobody needed it because nothing was moving. And so the oil company said, "Here, we'll pay you to take the oil." And I think actually Trump made some moves there, and I think he got some cheap gas or cheap oil anyway. But I have this. Have you ever heard of Energy? ENERGI, Basil?
No, I'm looking at it on the screen. Okay, what is this?
Okay, this is the cryptocurrency for world consciousness. Okay, this is supposed to be a crypto that's I don't own any, just for transparency's sake. And there are rumors about this company being connected to Warren Buffett, who is who took out a lot of money from the airlines and all that kind of stuff. He's sitting on cash, and Tesla, your boy Elon and Tesla.
Oh, gosh.
And so they might be building some of their infrastructure with energy, not financial advice, but something to keep an eye on and keep tabs on, because I think something like this, a tokenized type of crypto situation here, is how energy is going to be governed in the future. And it says here, our mission, energy, is the unification of optimized economics with the best-in-class tech led by far-seeing vision and moral values.
There it is.
Yep, featuring smart contracts, governance, and a self-funding treasury to enable sustainable growth and rewards for contributors. Excuse me, I got a burp thing going. But yeah, that's just, keep in mind something to maybe look for. And this is the kind of direction energy in general is going. It's a controlled release. Tesla technology has been here for over a century, and I think the elites have hoarded it. And that's where a lot of the weather warfare stuff comes in. I think they're using it for their means. And us little people, we get to just, receive whatever they hand out to us. And I feel like this type of infrastructure is what they're doing with that whole situation.
Totally. And someone in the chat, Forsov Abbott in the chat says, it's more than economics. They always label things as wars in order to get everyone on board before causing chaos and being the solution. War on drugs, war on terror, war on corona, World War Zero. And you make a good point there, Forsov, but I totally disagree that it's more than economics. Labeling things wars, I mean, wars themselves
that they are economic,
almost entirely predicated on economics. War on drugs, that was an economically motivated thing. War on terror, absolutely economically motivated. I could go into details on this, but I don't want to take too much time. But the war on terror is all about economics, taking control of the Middle East for oil, and war on corona obviously has its economic roots in billions, half a $1 trillion being spent on vaccines before they even exist, and obviously World War Zero. So war being a rhetorical term, but it is absolutely economic at its very foundation.
Yeah,
and that's the
and keep in mind that all wars, especially in the last few centuries, have been funded. Both sides of any war have been funded by the same people, the same bankers, all this kind of stuff. So, there's
even to World War II. You talk about even Hitler and his massacre was all economically driven. His whole case for his the war against the Jews was economically driven. Based on banking and all sorts of other nonsense. I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but it was all based on taking advantage of a scared Germany who had been completely ransacked during World War I. Germany was completely destroyed economically, and it was that economic motivation that Hitler used to, start World War II.
That's how you do it. That's how wars are done now. It's like you destroy the economy, everyone's desperate. And then you got to go to war. We got to finance it somehow, and then everyone jumps on board, and lives are lost for what they think is a cause that's greater than themselves, and it is, but it's not for what they think. And I think one of the most dangerous things when we're talking about economics and war and all this is even religion being used, especially in America, the Americanism. And I know some people might be triggered with this, but it's true that in the 50s, a lot of the Americanism, the nationalism, was a psyop. They were using religion, they were using Christianity to garner a sort of Americanism and American, the great founding forefathers were all Christian and we must protect this Christian nation. That was all by design. It's pretty disturbing when you start looking into that stuff. And it's not to take sides with the liberals or anything like that. We're just talking facts and history.
No, if you're just going straight historically, people are now just naming various wars in the chat. The Civil War, absolutely 100% economic. Slavery was an economic institution for cheap labor to grow cotton to sell back to England. I mean, that's all it is. It's all economically driven. Yeah. But I think we've kicked that dead horse enough.
Oh, earthquake or door slamming.
Live earthquake.
Yeah, either live earthquake or that was like a really crazy door slam from below. Let me check.
That would be the second earthquake in months that we've had live on the show.
Speaking of weather warfare, maybe they targeted my location here and they're trying to shake us up.
They got their Tesla earthquake machine rolling.
Yeah, let's see. Let me pull up my latest earthquake machine here. USGS. It's taking a while to load here. Maybe they're shutting down the internet too.
Yeah, it happens.
It happens. So, I don't see anything immediate.
While you do that, you keep looking. I just want to ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the time here. Did you want to hit this explanation thing here?
So there's a website called newworldwar.org. Don't know too much about it other than they have a weather warfare introduction essay that is very well done in terms of just an overview. If you're new to this information, there's a lot of good stuff here. A lot of it's sourced. I'll read a couple paragraphs here. In his 1931 book, The Scientific Outlook, Lord Bertrand Arthur Russell, winner of the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1950, discussed manipulating the weather. Quote, "It may be that God made the world," Russell proclaimed. Quote, "That is no reason why we should not make it over." Charles Galton Darwin, a physicist who worked on the Manhattan Project, who was also the grandson of Charles Darwin, talked about gaining direct control over the climate in his 1952 book, The Next Million Years. Weather modification is now possible. Attempts to modify the weather have been made since at least the late 1940s. In 1947, the U.S. Navy, Army, and Air Force, working with General Electric Corporation, made the first attempt to modify a hurricane under Project Cirrus by dropping about 80 pounds of dry ice into clouds. Project Cumulus, carried out by the British Royal Air Force between 1949 and 1952, included cloud seeding experiments over southern England. It was allegedly responsible for the 1952 flood in the Devon village of Lynmouth, which resulted in 34 deaths and the destruction of multiple structures. In the 1950s, the U.S. Forest Service carried out a project called Skyfire, in which they experimented with cloud seeding techniques to decrease lightning in order to reduce forest fires. Then, under Project Storm Fury from 1962 to 83, the U.S. government tried to disrupt the inner structure of hurricanes in the Atlantic by flying aircraft into them and seeding them with silver iodide. Did our stream just drop for a moment? It might have dropped for a moment, but it's okay. We're here. Weather modification involves three major categories: suppression of weather patterns, intensification of weather patterns, and in some cases, the introduction of completely new weather patterns. The two basic methods to accomplish weather modification include cloud seeding and directed energy. And it goes on here, and again, we'll leave the link in the description and mainly canarycrynewstalk.com, and you'll get all of your just a good overview in a few short minutes if you're new to the topic. I think I have one paragraph highlighted here. HARP is basically a multi-purpose tool. It exists to detect underground structures, to search for natural resources, to address national security issues, to communicate with submerged submarines using ELF waves, for surveillance purposes, and to examine new options for strategic communications. And we've talked about HARP before. And let me see here. It looks like there was an earthquake, a 3.5 in Yorba Linda, which is fairly close to me, about 10 miles or so away from where I'm at. So maybe there was a small shakeup down here, which is not unusual.
Yeah.
It felt more like a
California.
bump.
That's
California.
Your version of your yearly hurricanes.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, too, because a lot of people... I visited conferences out of town, and people that I talk to from other local areas or other areas of the country, they always say, California, how do you deal with the earthquakes? It's so scary, And it's mostly
a little shaky once in a while.
Well, most of the time, earthquakes are like us, something shaking and being like, was that an earthquake or what was that? Did somebody slam the door? Or unless it was the big one. Almost unnoticeable. Unless, the big ones you notice. Yeah. I remember Northridge and stuff. But yeah, it's not as crazy as people make it out to be. But yeah, I think in general, so much of our natural, resources, so to speak, not just oil, but our weather has been controlled or at least messed with. And so I think it's always funny that they always blame the people. We've caused pollution and it's all our fault and we have to carbon taxes and we're just so horrible. Humans are so bad. But in reality, who's the one that might be really messing with our weather and the consequences of that? I don't think it's us. You know what I mean? I think it's other people.
Even with just HARP, the high-powered ionization of different levels of the atmosphere is incredibly disruptive.
Right.
If you're coming from the standpoint that there is some sort of homeostasis within the Earth's climate, HARP itself, hyper-ionization of upper atmosphere, that alone would throw some sort of homeostasis out of whack.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm not trying to make any hard stance here. I'm just saying HAARP is that's not even a conspiracy theory. That's a well-known project funded by the government. And you can bet your bottom dollar that, messing with things like that is going to cause some long-term issues, whether or not the average person driving cars too much or using too many water bottles adds to that. It may or may not, but certainly big government programs specifically designed to affect the weather are going to have a huge impact on it as well.
Yeah. All right, let's take a quick. You got something else?
No, I'm all good. Let's take a quick little break.
Let's do it.
It's break time! Come on, take a break.
Okay, folks, don't go anywhere. We're just going to take a quick little break to catch our breath, but stick around because after the break, we're going to be talking about the great mask debate. Some updates there, Gonzo, and then a little bit of Space Pope Reptilian.
What are we doing? What is it?
We're going to be talking about the great mask debate.
Oh.
Gonzo.
Okay.
And Space Pope Reptilian and Nephilim update. All sorts of good stuff after the break. So don't go anywhere. But we want to take a second to thank some wonderful people as well as introduce some new content here. So, Gonz, I'm going to start out by zooming through a list of our new Twitch followers. Are you ready?
Yeah, we got a lot of them today, don't we?
I know. Yeah. Actually, I'm going to reload the page. Just get anybody else up there. Yep. Okay. You ready?
Yep.
First, we've got It Is Time for Change. Thank you. It Is Time for Change. Then we have NW Gig. Thanks, NW Gig. We got Aaron Schaefer, 2020. Aaron Schaefer, thank you very much. Don't rent your soul. Oh, that's good advice. Thank you. Don't rent your soul. These are, now just a reminder, these are all new Twitch followers who made the switch from wherever they came from to watch live on Twitch, or even just as a backup. So we're thanking these people. We got one named here, I'm a Cheese Boy. Thank you, Cheese Boy. We got Cerebro 1920.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Professor
Gun
X.
Shadow 85.
All right.
We've got Inflict.
That's it? Inflict?
Yes, just Inflict, spelled funny. Baby Bravo. Ooh, thank you, Baby Bravo.
Johnny Bravo's kid?
Praise Yahweh.
All right.
This one's, I think this one's a native Twitcher. It must have found us on the list. Baby Oil Boy. Yikes. Sister Ninja 501st.
All right. A lot of ninjas,
Cool.
sister ninjas.
Yeah. Shield Maiden for Christ. Thank you. Shield Maiden for Christ. Kevin Arnold. Kevin Arnold Ashburner.
Ooh.
Got a full name there. Zebra 3139. Nero 472.
Nero.
Yep. Annie Onimus. Nemus. Super Dave 75. Blondie 9008. XJKO. And that's all of them. Those are, had about 20 today. Thank you very much for following us on Twitch. And if you haven't done it yet, we highly recommend it. Twitch is we get it. They're owned by Amazon. We're not super happy about that, but
it's got the word witch in it.
They're much kinder to us as content producers than YouTube has been or any other place, that's easily accessible. So they've got great chat options. They've got some fun things we can build into it, and we're working on that. But we need more people to watch on Twitch. We've been hovering right about 100 for a couple months, which is strange. No, not a lot of new people watching on Twitch, but we're doing the best we can. And just a little update on the rankings here, Gonz. Let's see where we're sitting today. We were at 8th earlier in the day, but now we are at 9th on the talk shows and podcasts category. So that's pretty high up the list. I'm happy about that.
Okay.
So that's kind of fun. But if you want to help us climb those charts, it helps to spread the show, get new people to see the show, and hopefully join in. You can watch live on Twitch. Also, I got some advice from somebody who is more or less a professional Twitch or a Twitch professional. And they said the rankings, climbing up on those rankings, is also predicated on the active viewers on Twitch. So if you're watching on Twitch right now, just type something into the chat. Just say hi on the chat, because that apparently makes a big difference on where we are ranked, and it just helps out the show. So if you're watching live on Twitch, just say hi in the chat just to let us know you're here, and that'll help us out. So thank you so much. Okay.
Everybody in the chat now saying hi.
I know. I'm loving this.
Hi.
This is great. Hi.
Hey, Daddy Fauci, congratulations on your award, buddy.
Daddy Fauci in the chat. Wow. Award-winning.
Award, social change.
Yeah, he's really changing the social around here too. Okay, so now we want to take a second and thank some of our new producers of the show. That's right, we have producers, and they're not fancy Hollywood folk. They are normal people who are tuned into the show. They appreciate the show. They think what we're doing is important, and they help support the show financially. They're not just donors, they are producers, because this is the real world. If you pay for a piece of media to be created, you're not just a listener, you're a producer. So we want to thank some of our producers that came in since last show. I closed all of my Patreon tabs. We did get a new one in during the show, Gonz, so I will add that. But first of all, I want to start out by saying we got some new producers on our Patreon page, patreon.com/CCNT for Canary Cry News Talk. This new producer that just came in. So this one came in on Friday on the last show, and this is Mikey Sam. You may have heard Mikey Sam's name before. Thank you, Mikey Sam, supporting us both on both of our Patreons. So you are the man or woman or both, whoever you are. Thank you very much, Mikey Sam. And then we had a new producer come in right at the last second here, Zuzim Slayer. That's right. Thank you very much, Zuzim Slayer. I don't think we had any new producers over on patreon.com/Canary Cry.
I thought we had. I'm going to check now because my list is totally different from what you just read there, even with the new one.
Oh, okay.
So let me look real quick here and make sure
I can look too. No, I was just on there. There's nobody new.
Are you sure?
Yep, I'm looking at it right now. Nobody new since last show. So sad. But thank you to those two. We had Mikey Sam and Zuzim Slayer. And those are people who went to patreon.com/CCNT for Canary Cry News Talk, became a supporter. There's a bunch of bonus episodes there, all sorts of fun rewards. But more than that, you get to, you take some ownership in the show. And, again, like I like to say, supporting media producers that you enjoy and not forcing them to bow to the idolic god of advertising is one of the most powerful things you can do with your money. Gonz, you and I support dozens of other people doing great work. And it's a way to separate ourselves from the evil system of advertising, which turns you, the listeners, into commodities for creators to sell to big corporations, big evil corporations. So we don't think that that's the greatest idea, and we are thankful to those who support us. But if you're so patreon.com/CCNT is one option, but if you don't like Patreon, that's okay. You can go to canarycryradio.com/support.
canarycryradio.com/support.
That's right. canarycryradio.com/support is a place with other options that are not mediated by Patreon. We've got PayPal options there. You can come in with a monthly support option, or if commitment's not your thing, you can make a one-time donation in any amount. There's also cryptocurrency options there, all sorts of fun ways to support the show. Gonz, who came in there?
Well, according to my notes here, and by the way, that Mikey Sam, I had it down as Samantha, which was just my mistake. Same
Sounds
thing.
like half of it.
Yeah, half of it. But also, we have I don't know if it's the same or different. If it is the same, excellent. If it's different, excellent.
Excellent.
Producer Samantha coming in on PayPal.
Thank you, Samantha.
And we also had a producership come in for, it's listed as Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
And we also have another second, I guess it's a different person, but I don't want to get it too confused. Another Jason.
Thank you.
We had
Jason
two
and Jason.
people named Jason become
Wow.
producers of the show. So
what are the odds?
Yeah, what are the odds? And we also had Marsha.
Marsha. Thanks, Marsha.
So thank you for your producership.
Dokie. Beautiful. Well, thank you to our producers who financially support the show. Like I said, that is the only way we keep this show going. And it's a beautiful thing because, we're not having to get all wrapped up in advertising contracts where advertisers can pull their support and then we're suddenly, left hanging because we said something the advertiser doesn't like. We're not brand friendly at times. And these are all the things that, look, I don't want to disparage any show that does do advertisers. I know that there are a decent amount of shows that do advertising. And, if that's what you're called to do and if that's what makes you able to continue the good work, then that's great. But there's a lot of dangers that are connected to that. And we are trying to insulate ourselves from the temptation to bowing down to the advertising model of this world. It's one of the biggest problems with media creation, biggest problems with clickbait and nonsense and self-censoring and all this kind of stuff all stems from advertisers, people not wanting to anger their advertisers. So it's the support of our producers, you people. If you think the show is worth keeping going and you listen to the show and you get any value out of it, you get the opportunity to put value back in. And it's very rewarding. As someone who supports a lot of people myself, it's a very rewarding experience to take ownership and add value to the programs that you appreciate.
I have a question for you because you probably know this better than I would. But what if we put together like a mock commercial of us selling a product that doesn't exist and making it seem like, some nanites. These nanites will heal any ailment of your body. Send us $100 and we'll give you this bottle of nanobots. But it's an inside joke. No, everyone knows we're not going to send you nanobots, but we can kind of have fun with it. Is that legal?
I think,
or would that be false advertising?
That's a great question. It's a complicated thing. But I think if we're explicitly clear, at the
we got to have that little tag at the end where the guy talks super fast.
Nanobots are not really for sale. All donations sent to Canary Kai Radio are considered producership, and no nanobots are here to take over your brain. Thank you very much. Something like that, the fast talk.
Yeah, maybe something like that. We can do something like that, and we can sell all kinds of stuff, from the future, like robots.
Yeah, wow. So it's brilliant ideas here coming live on the show. All right, we'll get to work on that.
Yeah.
All right. So another way to produce the show, we've got producers in all walks of life and all sorts of fun ways. Another way to produce the show is to create art or jingles or, different production work on the show. Gonz, what do we got? Any jingles, any art come in this week?
Yes, we got a jingle that came in from Arnie, and he asked if we had a deep fake jingle, which technically we do. I did put this one together. Where's my deep fake one? I must have gotten rid of it off the template here.
Your old one?
Yeah, my old one. Well, no, this is the deep one.
This is deep.
There's that one, but there's also the deep fake one. I'm not finding it at the moment, but we do have one. But he sent one in, so let's give it a whirl here. Yeah, very like punk.
I was waiting. I'm like, are they going to say deep fake, or is there any?
Yeah, it's just a guitar riff. Just a guitar riff. No, but
fun.
that's I like it. Oh, here it is.
We are in deep fake.
That was the one I put together. Yeah,
a little snappier, but that's good. Well, it's always good to have different ammunition depending on the target we're shooting for. So thank you very much, Arnie.
Yes.
And if you out there are a jingle maker, make it short, make it snappy. Don't put too much copywritten material in it for anything on the show, any topic, or even just jokes. It's just send a Basil one. Just we did have the Razzle Basil jingle. We haven't played that in a while. Anyways, if you're a jingle person, make one, send it to canarycryradio@gmail.com.
Yes.
What about art?
We do have art, of course. We have Gazel and Bonds. Allie came in with another one.
Prolific.
Trouble in Paradise, aka Basil's.
This is a very specific reference.
Yeah.
Mostly only the live viewers will know this if you participate in chat. Marry Me Basil, a loyal listener and chatter, shows up for all the live streams for the most part. And then when we had a new Twitch follower named Basil's baby mama, it really caused some issues. So I don't see the art up. Do you have it up on screen, Gonz?
Yep, it's up.
The stream must be lagging. I can't see it. So you'll have to describe it.
Okay, so it's Trouble in Paradise, a.k.a. Basil's baby mama. And it's got Marry Me Basil, I'm guessing, on the left with some fine chocolate looking at her. I think it's a laptop, and it says,
we go.
And she's saying, "My life is over."
Yes, it's a side-by-side of the moment when Marry Me Basil saw that Basil's baby mama joined the team.
And then you have Basil in the mirror saying, "Tell me you scripted this." And
yes, saying it to the cat, referring to the undeniable fact that my cats script every show. It seems extemporaneous how we do this show, but really it's all carefully scripted and rehearsed by my team of cat writers.
Yes, and I have to get it approved by the alien transhuman cat before I can publish anything.
So very good. Thank you very much, Allie. Gazel and Bonds in the chat there.
Yep.
Always great art coming from Allie.
And we got another one from the other artist that sends us quite a bit of stuff, Jay Vela. And it's a quantum computing montage art piece. It's got AI, robot angels, transhuman bodies with ones and zeros, a jellyfish with a brain-computer interface, VR headset inside of a cube.
Yes, the montage. I recommend everybody, if you're listening on the podcast version, check out canarycryradio.com. Sorry, canarycrynewstalk.com or the Facebook page and take a look at these pieces of art, especially these sort of montage collage ones. Very a lot to see, a lot to ponder, and a lot being communicated.
The one thing I've noticed about all Jay Vela's artwork, it's all in notebooks. And I'm wondering if they're in class or something, they're like not paying attention to the teacher, instead listening to CCNT, which we recommend you doing.
Wow. Look at that. Holy smokes. Okay, well, great. Thank you very much, Jay Vela. Very good work.
Yes, thank you, Jay Vela. And then we got one more. Come on, OBS. Oh, my computer's starting to freak out a little bit. Okay, this one is from Magoo. Prolific.
Good old Magoo.
I'm not sure what's happening here.
I can't see it quite yet. I'm waiting for the stream to catch up so I can see it. Maybe I can pull it up on the email here and help you, Gonz.
Okay,
help
so
you identify what we're looking at here. He's
I
Magoo's
think
very talented at sort of the kindergarten level art.
yes.
Yeah,
I think it's me on the right. It's me on the right with a razor in my hand. And this is, again, a reference to me talking about shaving for swimming.
Oh, you're swimming.
I'm
yes,
swimming.
Where you had
I
to
got
shave your body. You got your Tesla shorts
Tesla
on.
shorts. And I'm saying, I love my silky smooth legs.
Mm-hmm. And I am saying, ooh, shiny. And there's a canary. Very specifically, my legs are not shaved.
No.
Very hairy.
They're very
and a little canary looking at my legs saying, yoinks, looks like a nice place to make a nest. Wow, Magoo. Wow. He's a visionary. Let's say he's a visionary. Yes. And has deep understanding of Canary Cry lore.
So we love all the art. I think it's fantastic, especially like the inside jokes when we get a kick out of it anyway. And
it was a good time.
Lose
thank
viewers.
you, talk.com and the Canary Cry Radio Facebook page. So thank you very much. I want to give a quick shout out and thank everybody who has responded to my little pitch for the Joyspiracy theory that I did last show. Lots of people have been checking out the show. Thank you very much. And yes, keep an eye out for new episodes. And because of last episode, I've had many more people say that they are willing to come on the show. So once I get my butt in gear here, the Joyspiracy theory is going to take off once again. Now, Gonz, we have a rating and a review.
All right.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Okay, so ratings and reviews are very important aspects of doing a podcast. As the creator, you really almost completely predicated on people leaving ratings and reviews. And I want to thank Caribou Jaguar for leaving a rating and a review on Canary Cry News Talk on Apple Podcasts. They say, getting twitchy over here. And then there's a robot emoji. And they say, oh, this was a 5-star review. Thank you, Caribou Jaguar. They have a robot emoji, and they say, I have joined Twitch to appease my Canary Cry overlords. Beep, boop. Beep, boop. I have conformed successfully. Beep, boop. Download complete. Robot emoji. Oh, very good. Thank you. This is a great example of an effective and entertaining way to leave a rating and a review for the show. So thank you very much, Caribou Jaguar. And if you haven't done it yet, which I know there are many of you who have not done it yet, it would be a real personal favor to go. You don't even need to have Apple Podcasts on your phone to leave a review. Here's what you do. Google, or don't Google, Bing or DuckDuckGo, search the term Canary Cry News Talk Apple Podcasts.
Or better yet, just go to canarycrynewstalk.com and there's a link there right for you.
Okay, there's that too. But you can also search Canary Cry News Talk Apple Podcasts. It'll pop up our page on Apple Podcasts, and just click leave a review. And that'll be very nice. Thank you very much. Okay, there's one last thing, Gonz, I wanted to talk about before we end the break. I'm sorry this break is getting a little long.
It's super long.
Yeah, I know. But it's content. It's all content, baby.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a very, very generous producer. We asked a while back for somebody while they're watching the live stream to make notes, write down the time code of when we switch topics.
Yes.
So it can help future viewers find a topic that they want to listen to, and then, they can just click on the link and it takes them right to where they want, the topic they want to listen to. Very helpful. Who is the name of that producer again? I want to give them credit.
I'm trying to remember it now. I'm pulling it up so I can.
We need to write that down because they're very valuable service they're offering to us.
That Night Wind.
That Night Wind.
Yes.
Thank you very much, producer That Night Wind. You're a valuable part of the team. But there is a next step that I would like to take, and it doesn't have to be That Night Wind. It could be anybody. What we really want to do, because the show is so long, and it kind of turns people off to listening to it. I would like to start getting clips of individual topics that we talk about. And here's what I think the best way for this to go would be. Somebody out there who's a listener who is capable of downloading YouTube videos and chopping them up in a video software like a Final Cut or Adobe Premiere, whatever you do. If you're a YouTube person, you know how to do this. If you could take those time codes that Night Wind is giving us, which will be posted in the show notes, and make some clips, clip out these sections where we are talking about an individual topic, because we find that a lot of people want to share the information and the observations and the breakdown and the analysis of different stories and different topics that we talk about, but it's very hard to navigate or send, if you want to send your friend, a clip or something. Right now you have to send them a whole 3-hour show and they have to kind of like figure out where to go. But if somebody out there would start clipping it for us that we could upload as individual clips that you could share around, that would be so incredibly valuable to us. You would instantly become a valued producer. And it's easy, if you got a couple minutes, you can download the YouTube file and then just go through that Night Wind's markers, time codes. Yeah, and just clip out clips and send it to us. And that would be great. I'm just putting that out there for somebody who wants to get more involved in production, more involved in the community. You can do that. If you're interested in that, just either let us know, send an email to canarycryradio@gmail.com, or just do it and let us know. And you'll be at the top of my list of people to give hugs to when I see them in person.
All right. Unless we're still social distancing.
Oh.
In which case you'd have to elbow them.
I'll be in my hazmat suit.
Yeah.
Okay, it's time to wake up, Gonz.
Yes, it's wake up time.
Hey, yo, wake up.
Hey, yo, wake up.
Wake up.
We're getting back to the show here, folks. So here we go. Gonz, you want this one or you want me to grab this one?
I'll do this one. You do this one. All right. Okay.
You do. I'll do.
If you're working alone, wear a mask. The mask's not for you. It's to protect the people you care about.
Okay, this is from timesofisrael.com. New Israeli-made mask claims to offer best protection yet against coronavirus. And they are really taking it to the next level, Gonz. An Israeli scientist has invented a mask that, in quotations, seals the face, and according to testing, blocks 99.25 of coronavirus-sized particles, he says. Noam Gavrieli helped the Israel Defense Forces develop gas masks during the Iraq War and admits that his new product, ViraMask, resembles some wartime protection devices and doesn't look attractive. But he said that in terms of protection, it offers a significant improvement over the N95 mask, which are meant to filter at least 95% of airborne particles and are widely seen as the best currently available option. Gavrieli, ViraMask CEO, told the Times of Israel, quote, "Unlike other products, this is sealed all around the face like a gas mask and diving masks, and the filter is much more dense than an N95 mask and surgical masks, meaning that fewer particles can penetrate." He said this can give peace of mind. Ooh, I had a little pop-up. Peace of mind to hospital workers and other medical professionals, including dentists and others who are at higher risk of being exposed to coronavirus. The mask straps around the head and covers the eyes, nose, and mouth, meaning that all points currently believed to be channels for coronavirus infection are protected. Quote, "In this case, you're covering yourself completely and also protecting the environment around you from any infection you may have," said Gabrielli, who was a professor of physiology at the Technion Israel Institute of Technology until his early retirement in 2005. Quote, originally, we designed it to give protection for medical staff, but others have started buying it online, and we're finding that almost everyone can use it, he said. People buy it and go to visit grandparents, to go on flights and wear for hospital checkups, et cetera, et cetera. The article goes on, but you can buy it for $70. And so far, they've sold 10,000 of them through their medical supply distributors and online purchases. And, there it is. That's the new look. Oh, Beast Fashion would have been a great jingle for this one.
Yeah, I was looking at the line that says, he said, this can give peace of mind. It's always about the peace of mind.
It's all about peace of mind. And he is following a couple of weird things. First of all, he's following the new guidelines from Fauci that now our eyes will give us coronavirus. So he's got goggles on this gas mask here. The picture they have of the mannequin wearing it is definitely not sealed around the mannequin's eyes. I don't know if that's just a mannequin issue or a product issue.
You could totally see the giant gap.
Offers no protection to this mannequin, unfortunately. But there you go, Gonz. It's the new look, baby.
It looks kind of like Ant-Man, the Ant-Man suit.
Yeah, it does have an Ant-Man vibe to it.
Yeah, I don't know,
got a
man.
Big square. The design is really strange. It's got this big, humongous square mouth on it. That's kind of off-putting, but you know what? It's for peace of mind, baby.
Hey, Grandma. Nice to see you, Grandma.
I love you so much. This is way better than a Zoom meeting.
Okay. Yeah.
There you go. Just a little mask update for those looking for the available options. I did bust out my full-on gas mask the other day.
Oh, good. To go to the grocery store or something?
Just for fun. No, I walked out to the mailbox with a full-on gas mask, and I was disappointed. No neighbors were out there to see me. Maybe they're peeking through their blinds or something.
It's okay. The Eye of Sauron is proud.
Yes.
The Eye of Sauron from the sky. Skynet was very proud of you.
Yes. I want to mention real quick, William Steele, acclaimed jewel thief in the chat, has volunteered, I think, to do the clipping of the show.
Very cool.
I think that's what he's saying. Will Steele, if that's true, you are the man. You're not only acclaimed jewel thief, but number one friend now.
We need somebody to build a robot Clippy to clip our show.
Oh my gosh, Gonz, that's the greatest joke you've ever said.
Wow.
Good job.
I don't know how I feel about that. It was like sarcasm. Yeah, it was like sarcasm.
People don't like it when we're mean to each other. That was positive reinforcement.
Sure it was. Okay, let's go on with the next one here.
If you're working alone, wear a mask. The mask's not for you. It's to protect the people you care about.
Of course it is, because according to thehill.com, Delta flight returns to gate after two passengers refused to wear masks. Man, just inconveniencing everybody.
Oh my gosh, I'm getting triggered emotionally. I'm going into PTSD. The thought of being on a plane and having to turn around and go back to the gate because somebody won't put on a mask is affecting me emotionally right now.
A Delta Airlines flight returned to the gate last week after two travelers refused to wear masks or face coverings, a spokeswoman for the airline confirmed to The Hill. Flight 1227 was set to travel from Detroit to Atlanta on July 23rd. Delta spokeswoman Emma Kate Protis said, and after the delay, the plane departed to its destination. The two passengers who refused to wear masks or face coverings were removed from the flight.
Wow.
Delta states on its website that, quote, customers and employees are required to wear a face mask or appropriate cloth face covering over their nose and mouth throughout their travel, aligning with best practice guidelines from the CDC and prevention, blah, blah, blah. Delta.
Wow.
I know. Delta has also blocked seats between customers on flights and reduced the number of passengers allowed on flights to provide for distance amid the ongoing pandemic. Delta CEO Ed Bastian said last week that more than 100 people have been added to the airline's no-fly list because they refused to wear masks on flights. Quote, "We've been steadily and rather aggressively stepping up our enforcement on the mask policy. You cannot board a Delta plane unless you have a mask on. If you board the plane and you insist on not wearing your mask, we will insist that you don't fly Delta into the future." I like how they worked in their little tagline into the quote here. "We already have over 100 people we've put on that list," Bastian told NBC. So there you go. No Delta flight into the future if you don't wear a mask.
This is pretty incredible. The power of will that somebody has to refuse putting on a mask that they would follow through with holding out and returning the plane. I'm talking about from the passenger's point of view.
Yeah.
That is a strength of will that I do not think I have right now.
Yeah, it depends on the situation.
I could refuse to wear a mask. I could push back. But if they're like, okay, we're turning this plane around and we're dropping you back off, I would I don't know whether I'm proud of it or not. I'm not proud of it. I would put a mask on.
Okay, but
the thought of daddy pilot turning this plane around.
But I think they weren't in the air yet, were they? They couldn't have been in the air.
No, of course they weren't.
Okay, that would be a whole different level.
Honestly, it doesn't even matter to me. The second I leave that gate and I'm ready to go, that is a strength of will that I do not possess at this moment. That is really taking a stand to cancel your flight and delay the flight, to taxi all the way out and to taxi all the way back. And, really, those must have been the most hated people within 100-mile radius.
Oh, I'm sure. But, the thing is, if you're going to make that statement, make it, I don't know. You can make that statement without inconveniencing people, I suppose.
And here's the thing. This is its own. This is a real protest.
Yeah.
You're talking about protests, and there's all this conversation about how, if you don't make it inconvenient for other people, then it's not really a protest. That's why all these protests are blocking highways and, autonomous zones and smashing windows, because that's, the way that they are making their feelings actually heard. If it's not inconveniencing somebody, it's not a real protest. And this is a real protest.
Yeah. Well, remember Al Gore, speaking of climate change with all that, remember Al Gore's inconvenient truth? Well, it's this is another one of those things where you take their words for verbatim and create inconvenience for the truth.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep, there it is. Okay, let's move on here from the great mask debate and talk about the Space Pope Reptilian.
Space Pope Reptilian.
All right, this is coming from news24.com, breaking news first. And the article is fake news. No, Pope Francis is not canceling the Bible.
I got some
Pope
things
Francis,
to say here.
The global head of the Catholic Church, has canceled the Bible and proposes to create a new book, claims several messages shared on Facebook and WhatsApp. The claim dates back to at least April 2018. In July 2020, a Kenyan website published an article headlined, "End Time is this why Pope Francis has rejected the Bible?" The article was shared with Africa Czech in Kenya on WhatsApp. It reports that the Pope had deemed the Bible outdated. Quote, "We cannot keep trying to talk to our audience in a completely new world with an old book of several thousand years," it quotes him saying. But the article gives no detail on when or where Francis said this and reads more like an opinion piece than a news story. Has the head of the Catholic Church canceled its holiest book? We checked. Fiction used as real news. If the claim were accurate, news of the Bible's cancellation would have been widely reported across the world, but no credible news outlet, including the Catholic Church's official Vatican News, has carried the story. A Google search for Pope Francis cancels the Bible only leads to fact checks debunking the claim. Well, the algorithms led you there, okay? That doesn't mean everybody's Google search will say that.
Yeah.
I like how that's used as like a
proof.
A point of fact. Well, I Googled it, and it was just a bunch of fact-checking, so it must be false. The story seems to have first appeared online in the 2nd of April 2018 article on the website There Is News. The site describes itself as a humor site whose purpose is entertainment. It adds the content of TIN is fiction and does not correspond to reality. The site's slogan is not real, but so funny. But when fiction, humor, or satire is reused as real news, it becomes disinformation. Africa Check has debunked other fictional stories, later shared widely on social media as though they were real. When the claim first started circulating in April 2018, Bishop Jose Luis Gerardo Ponce de Leon, IMC of the Diocese of Manzini in Swaziland, wow, quite the title, part of the Southern African Catholic Bishops' Conference, wrote an article dismissing it, quote, in the last few weeks, different people wrote to me privately asking if it was true that Pope Francis has canceled the Bible and proposes to create a new book. This fake news is being shared on social media, he said. Quote, it is interesting that people might believe something like this, considering that Pope Francis has chosen to celebrate daily mass with groups of people, mainly from the parishes in Rome, where he constantly refers to the Bible in his daily homilies. A year later, an article in Vatican News quotes the Pope telling the Catholic Biblical Federation that, quote, the Bible is not a beautiful collection of sacred books to study. It is the word of life to be proclaimed through the streets of the world. In his homilies or sermons, Francis continues to quote the Bible. The book is not canceled. So there you go, Gonz.
I'm disappointed.
Has not canceled the Bible.
Well, this type of thing, a couple things to say here. Obviously, the Pope didn't say that the Bible's canceled. There's, I would imagine there's a little bit of maybe a language barrier or some kind of cultural barrier, given that I believe the website that it originated from was not from the same country. But either way, it's this happens in the truther community. It's happened before. I've read headlines like, "Oh my gosh," and then realize it's happened on the show where you like we think it's like a story. And then we find out that it's a satire website. So obviously, this type of thing can happen to anybody. But I will say this. What was satire a decade ago, 2 decades ago, have most certainly become real life headlines in the modern time.
That's a good point.
So while this particular story is quote unquote debunked, I will not dismiss the possibility of future, what I will call popes, more like, what I would consider maybe false prophets, maybe, but that's just my opinion, will perhaps change certain things that they will not point to the Bible, or if they do, they'll change the meaning of things and try to push a different type of agenda. And, so something to keep in mind. Plus, the other angle to this is that the people that did pick it up and say, oh, look at this crazy news story about the Pope saying the Bible is no more. They themselves could be some kind of operation to make all the conspiracy people go wild, because it confirms a sort of bias that exists against the Catholic Church in general, which, we're not Catholic and we love our Catholic brothers and sisters. However, with the papacy, I disagree with the structure of the papacy and the history of Rome and all that. Although, again, big long conversation about how the Bible survived and all that stuff. But so there's a lot of different angles to this. And I would just say that this is why we have to stay vigilant and watchful, is because people can be very easily carried away by headlines and stories that seem to confirm or affirm a particular worldview, especially if you're a truther. You're kind of a contrarian anyway.
Yeah,
and if there's
it's really
news,
easy to want to believe anything that goes against the official story.
Right. And the Pope has said some crazy things already anyway, some questionable things. You don't need this story to be true to dig at some of the things that he has suggested. And that goes back to a couple episodes ago. I think we talked about the papacy and the history and all that kind of stuff in brief. But so there you go. Fake news.
Dove and Serpent Times in chat says, didn't China last year say they're rewriting the Bible for real? Parables of Jesus must fit in with party policy. Love the Chinese people, by the way. Just don't like the agenda on this. Did you hear that?
I think I heard about it. I don't know if it's true, though.
Seems like more work than they would want to put in.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. They would just rather round them up and throw them into concentration camps, to be honest.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. It's already been banned in many different ways over there. But I would not put that past them. I just don't have any information on that.
And I know that there are atheists and things that have come out and said that we need a modern mythology. And a type
the
of
mythology conversation is very widespread right now.
Yeah, to sort of galvanize the human race or whatever it is. It's a very humanistic approach.
It's interesting because the atheistic concept, at least of, not your teenage rebellion atheists, but real academic atheists. Yeah, real academic philosophers, atheists, people like that. They recognize the importance of a story, like a story to be told, a mythical story, and not mythical in the not true sense, just mythical in like a reference point for culture sense.
Right.
And so,
how it shapes culture, shapes behaviors, shapes society.
You want to have something to reference parts of your life with.
Right.
Much how, Christians will turn to the Bible as a reference for, parts of their lives or ways to act or things to do, how to feel, who to serve, who not to serve.
Right.
The important stuff.
The big stuff. Yeah. Along with the little stuff too.
Yeah. And I've seen people, with that comes symbology and stuff like that.
I've seen people use the Bible as kind of like a Rolodex. What's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like what do New Age people? Not just a manual, but more of like a
divining instrument.
Yeah. They'll like open a passage and like point a finger to some passage and they'll read it and they'll be like, oh, this passage is for me and this particular situation. And not to say that the Word of God doesn't work like that in certain ways, but
possibly could.
It could, but that's not the only way you should be using the Bible as some kind of, divining thing. But anyway.
Anyway, there you go. So there we go. You got anything left for? Oh, we do have something left for this show, Gonz.
I know. Yeah, I know.
No.
Nephilim update.
This is asapland.com, asapland.com. Took me a second.
Land.
Yeah, it took me a second. The Last of Us Part 2. This fan-made poster is depopulating on Twitter. I don't even know what that means.
Last of Us Part 2. I almost bought this game yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, almost.
Okay.
But we'll see what they have to say.
A month has already passed since Naughty Dog has once again shaken up the world of video games by giving Prince The Last of Us Part 2. Loved by many, hated by some, Neil Druckmann's work has left a profound mark, on the hearts of millions of players and is already inspiring artists from around the world. One of these, known as Iconic Nephilim.
Ooh.
He made a wonderful fan-made poster from The Last of Us 2, which, is that a typo? I don't know, it's a weird sentence. Which, in our opinion, would not look out of place alongside official promotional materials. In the illustration, all the main characters of the game stand out, starting from the inevitable Ellie and Joel, up to Dina, Abby, Tommy, and many others. The work is getting huge acclaim on Twitter, and you could admire it in its entirety. At the bottom of this news, by the way, the author also took care to share the fascinating one video documenting the entire process or production process. And it's a pretty professional looking poster with the characters.
It's a great looking poster.
But
and he named the poster is called Iconic Nephilim.
Iconic Nephilim is the name of the poster, and I'm not sure why it is named that.
Yeah, I don't really know much about this game, so I'm not catching any references or anything, but it's hidden in plain sight, whatever it is.
The Nephilim are in the people.
Nephilim update.
I don't know what that means.
Okay. Well, this is great, Gonz. We're not that far past our time limit.
No.
We did a good job.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, we're going to land this plane. Thank you so much for tuning in to Canary Cry News Talk today. Remember, we're going to be back on Wednesday, I believe, sometime between noon and 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So set your alarms now, turn on notifications, do all of that good stuff. And remember, what am I saying? I want to thank our producers. Thank our new producers so much, whether that was financially or administratively or artistically or whatever you helped out with. You are a producer of the show. Tell your friends. Take ownership, because Gonz and I consider that to be the case. We appreciate it very much. Remember, you can become a producer, first of all, by going to patreon.com/CCNT, joining up in the battle against the evil idol and icon and system of advertising that has its stranglehold on people trying to make good work. You can help us fight that battle and become a producer, an official producer of the show at patreon.com/CCNT. Or if Patreon's not your thing, you can head over to canarycryradio.com/support.
canarycryradio.com/support.
That's right. And over there, just to say again, you got PayPal options. You can do a monthly subscription or a one-time donation if commitment's not your thing. We really, really cannot thank our producers enough, no matter what you do to help produce the show. It's really a great. I never imagined that we would have built such a community of involved people who are not just involved, but we couldn't do a lot of stuff without them.
Yeah.
And it means a lot more than the days when it was just you and me doing everything, Gonz, or not doing everything.
Not doing everything,
as the case may have been.
Yeah.
But it really is heartwarming to know that people out there are taking ownership of the show, putting in work, allocating funds, things like that to keep the show going. And more than anything else, it renews every new producer that gets involved. It renews the feeling, Gonz, that we are on the right track and we need to keep going and stay vigilant with what the Lord's asked us to do.
Amen.
So thank you very much. Become a part of that in whatever way you can. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's anything else to say. What do we want to do? If you
all right.
If you want to make jingles,
yes.
you want to make art, all those things, send them to canarycryradio@gmail.com. Thank you very much for that. Keep them coming. You can find the art on Facebook, the Canary Cry Radio Facebook page, as well as canarycrynewstalk.com. Make sure to join one of the Canary Cry communities. If you're a Facebook person, if you enjoy that, we have the Canary Cry community on Facebook. Just keeps growing. Let me give you a recommendation, though, because I am pretty much the only person pressing the approve button at this point. And when you try to join the group, it's going to ask you a couple of questions. First of all, have you listened to the podcast, and where did you learn about the group? I just don't let people in if they don't answer those questions, because the group is specifically, there's tons of groups where you can just join and post whatever nonsense and, just talk about conspiracy theories and get in fights and do all this kind of stuff. There's tons of groups where you can do that. The Canary Cry community is not one of those groups. It's specifically for people who listen to the show. You are aware of the worldview of the show. You know the jokes, the inside stories. And if you don't know them, you're open to them. That type of thing. So if you try to join the Canary Cry community on Facebook, answer the questions, because that's the only way you're going to get let in. And that's just to protect the community from infiltrators and people and trolls and people who just want to cause trouble, or not even that, or just people who don't appreciate, who wouldn't appreciate the group because they've never listened to the show. So there you go. It's not just another conspiracy group or something. It's for you. It's for people who are Canarians, and we like to keep it that way. So make sure to answer the questions. Also, if you want to join an off Facebook group, you can go to canarycry.community. That's a real URL. I know, it's crazy. Type in canarycry.community into your address bar, and it's a totally separate social network, disconnected from Facebook, disconnected from Google accounts, disconnected from everything. So if you're trying to unplug from the sort of monstrosity of social media, but you still want to connect with people like you who listen to the show, produce the show, whatever level you're sitting at, canarycry.community, that's the place for you. Go do it. All right. Now, the last way, remember, you leave ratings and reviews. Do it. We need it. I'm gonna read them. But the most important thing than everything else is you got friends, you got family. They're all waking up, realizing that the world is not what it seems, and they need a Sherpa to help them down the narrow path of waking up. And you should share a show with them. Send them an episode. Once we get these clips, just send them clips. We are here to help people on that journey of thinking critically about the media that is being presented to them and everything going on around the world. So send them an episode. Tell your friends. Tell your family. Word of mouth is the best way to share the show, spread the show, which we appreciate, but it's also the best way to help people along that journey. If you're just posting it on Facebook, which you should also do, but it's much more effective to tell them personally and send them an episode. So please do that. And if you need any more instructions, here's what you do. You walk right up to them, you grab them by the cage, and then you shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
Just ask Noah. That's right, folks. Remember, we'll be back on Wednesday, sometime between noon and 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Make sure to tune in live and make sure to subscribe to the podcast on whatever podcatcher you want to use. And remember to follow us at twitch.tv/CanaryCryRadio. And that's it. I think that's it. Make sure to tune in to the next episode of Canary Cry News Talk. But until then, think outside the cage.
Canaries in a cage.
Rattle her cage a little bit more.
They're priming us with sap.
Cancel culture.
Aliens. You can't handle the truth.
Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Buy gold. Bye!
I want to shake things up, shake things up. I want to shake things up, shake things up. Leave the bird alone. I want to stir up some controversy. I want to rattle a few cages. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. A crusader for the little guy. Well, we'll see about that.
Whatever, Illuminati.
In the future, humans will be confined in a people's zoo.
People, I'll keep you safe and warm in my people's zoo.
keep the cameras on. In my people's zoo. I'll keep the cameras on now. In my people's zoo. You, yeah, you, in my people's zoo. I'll make you fat and sassy in my people's zoo. I'll make you fat and sassy in my people's zoo. You, yeah, you. You, yeah, you. You, yeah, you. In my people's zoo.